Okay, so in this video, we are going to go over the Quiz 3 sample questions. So you can see the topics for Quiz 3 are listed right here. So make sure you understand that material. And all right, so let's see. The first sample question. Assume you wish to create a mutator for a zip code instance variable within an address data definition class. Instead of throwing an illegal argument exception, you wish to create your own exception, invalid zip code exception, that will be thrown when an invalid zip code has been passed to the method. Using course terminology, describe in detail how you could create your own exception. No Java code is needed. Okay, well, I'll just show you how to do the Java code because that'll show you exactly what to do. So it's going to be an invalid zip code exception. Okay, so you would just do public class invalid zip code exception, and we're going to extend. And in this case, we have to decide what kind of exception we want to extend. All right, if we want to extend runtime exception, then that will mean that this is an unchecked exception. Okay, meaning that the compiler is not going to catch any kind of problems. If we extended just exception rather than runtime exception, then that would have made it a checked exception, and then it would have had to have been handled before being used in the code with try catch blocks or throws clause. So this is really actually all that we have to do is just put in the class name and then it extends runtime exception and we're done. Now, if we wanted to be a little bit more thorough, we could add in a constructor. That accepts a string, like a message or something, and then that would just make a call to the superclass's constructor. Okay. Again, that's not required. You don't have to do that. Really, all you would have to do is that first line right there with the opening and closing curly braces, and you'd be done. Okay, so that's the answer to the first question. All right, the second question is, assume you have created an inheritance hierarchy with classes of employee, engineer, and architect. Employee is an abstract class, so presumably engineer and architect are both subclasses of this employee abstract class. Each class has a hello method. Based on the implementation code provided below, could each of the following code blocks be added to the end of the main method? Why or why not? Okay. So we have these three items here. And then in our implementation class, let's see, we have employee emp1 equals new employee. Okay, well, we already know that this line right here is going to be a problem, all right? If employee is an abstract class, I cannot instantiate an employee. Okay, so we already know that that one's not going to work. The second one, engineer, eng1 equals new engineer. It looks like there's a typo here. Engineer is spelled incorrectly. So if this would also not compile due to the typo. But assuming that there isn't a typo here, assuming that this is spelled correctly, then we just have a new engineer object. And then we have a new architect object, but we have a employee reference. So we have the superclass reference to the subclass. Okay. All right, so for number one, if we try and call this get hello message, passing in employee, okay, again, obviously that's not going to work because you can't actually instantiate this employee object because it's abstract. Okay, so the number one's not going to work. It won't work at all, even if you didn't try and put that line in. This just wouldn't compile. Okay, and then number two, the engineer, trying to pass in the engineer. Yeah, an engineer is an employee, so that should work just fine. Okay, even though it says that I'm expecting an employee as my argument. Well, an engineer is an employee, so that will work. An architect is an employee, so any subclasses of employee will be handled by this method just fine. Okay, and so the last one, the architect, again, that one will work fine because it is an architect object. It's got the employee reference. Either one of those things are acceptable for this particular method right here, so that would work just fine. Okay, number 3, draw a UML diagram for a class hierarchy that contains data definition classes and the relationship between the following: fruit, banana, and apple. Assume it is impossible to create a fruit object, then briefly justify your design. Okay, well, on the quiz, you're most likely, since it's going to be online, you're not going to be asked to draw a UML diagram, but be that as it may, we can go ahead and do that. So it looks like fruit is going to be an abstract superclass, and then banana and apple are going to be subclasses. So basically what we would do is, let's see if I can figure out how to draw some shapes here. Okay, so this right here is going to be our fruit class. So, okay, and now because it's abstract, the way that we denote an abstract class in UML is to put the title in italics. Okay, so there that is in italics. All right, and then we're going to have a subclass of apple and another subclass of, I think it was banana. Let me look and see. Banana and apple, yep, okay. And so because these are subclasses, then what we need to do is we need to draw arrows. So let's see, I think there's an arrow in here. So there we go, there's an arrow, and there's an arrow. Yep, I lost the tip of it somewhere there. Okay, there we go. So that's basically what our UML diagram would look like. Okay, and briefly justify your design. Well, you know, fruit is an abstract superclass, banana and apple are subclasses, and so that's what I drew. Okay, and number 4, consider the following Java code representing a partially completed actor data definition class. Write an accessor method for the instance variable movie names. Okay, so we're going to write a getter for movie names. Okay, you'll notice that movie names is an array of strings. Okay, so I've actually copied this over here into the IDE. All right, so here we have the actor. All right, so we need to make a getter. Okay, so if we were to do public string get movie names. All right, now we know that whenever we have an array as an instance variable, we have to make a copy of it, whether it's a getter or a setter. So we're going to go ahead and create a copy of this rather than just do, you know, the instinct is to just do return movie names, okay? And that would be wrong because that would possibly violate information hiding, okay? So instead what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of movie names. So we're going to say string copy, I'll just call it copy, equals new string, and we'll make it movie names dot length. Okay, and then we'll do for int I equals 0, I is less than copy dot length, I plus plus, and we will say copy sub I equals movie names sub I. So we're copying each string one by one at each step through this loop. And then at the end, we are going to just return our copy. Okay, so let's just make sure we haven't made any typos or errors. It doesn't look like we have. So this would be the answer right here. This would be how we would make a getter. Now, if the question said, how would you make a setter? Okay, it would be a very similar process, right? So I would have public void set movie names. And then in this case, I would be accepting an array of strings as my argument. So input. All right. And so again, I'm going to do a very similar thing. In fact, I'm going to just steal this code here real quick. Okay, so I've got this copy that I'm making. I'll change this to input.length. Okay, I'm going through And in this case, let's see. All right, so I've got this input array coming in that I'm trying to set. All right, so I make this copy. I copy all of the items in this input array into this copy. And then instead of return copy, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say movie names equals copy. Okay, I could have just used movie names here in place of copy if I had wanted to. That would have been fine as well. Okay, so that's basically the answer to the last one. All right, with a little bit of extra. Okay, so those are sort of the quick and easy answers for the sample questions. And I'll probably be making another video that goes over the quiz that I gave last semester. So you'll have a couple of, a few more sample questions to go through.